Good afternoon, everybody, and a happy Wednesday to all you ardent ICB TV fans. It's great to know that you're still out there. What is it now, about 10 weeks or something or other, and you're still hanging on in there. So that is brilliant. I hope you're still getting a lot from these daily shows. We're going to continue with them. Next week is going to be particularly busy. We've got an entire week crammed with all sorts of things to help you with marketing, social media, you name it, we're there. We're trying to help you get ready for when all the businesses that have had their furlough payments suddenly start, that all starts drying up and they've then got to go out and earn their living again and all this sort of stuff. So I heard somebody say recently that they don't talk about challenges anymore, they describe them as opportunities, and this is the biggest opportunity most of us have ever had in our lives. So we've got to seize that one. So that's great. And I'm very pleased today. We've got a member that many of you will either have met or will have seen on stage at our seminars, at our Inspire tour, and that is Vip Patel. Good afternoon, Vip. How are you?
Good afternoon, Gary. It's nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's great to see you've got the company name behind you there. There is it looks pretty good actually. I did it for a couple of days, but my hair is now getting so long that every time I move, the entire head sort of moved away from.
Yeah, no, I think that's also one of the things that we could probably talk about is when you're doing these Zoom conferences with your clients and that, it's nice to have a professional background behind you rather than kids running around or whatever. So there's another tip. And it's pretty easy to do.
You've obviously got somebody hiding your kids or something like that. So, you know, that's all.
I don't know.
Some of them don't get the chance, unfortunately. So I've done webinars and looked at people where they've got the children sitting on their knee, or our own Amy Copeland's got two small ones who, for some reason, are quiet as mice until 3 o'clock, and then they come on and want to chat, you know, or something like that. But what can we say? What can we say? This is the new life as we know it.
This is the new normal.
The new abnormal, again, referring to somebody else's comments. But so, yeah. You're here today to talk about your practice, and you are very proud of the fact, obviously, that you're 100% cloud. It's all remote. Everything's done there. So I'd like to start by asking why. Why did you decide this?
Well, I was in a unique position, Gary, because, well, first and foremost, in my previous life, I was a computer scientist. Okay, computers don't scare me. I have a degree in computer science, and when I set up my practice must be now 7 years ago, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do bookkeeping and that was to be able to do it because I retired at 50. Had a bit of fun, and I wanted to do something that I could do from home, not having to necessarily go to clients or anything like that, and use my computer all the time. And so at that point, when I did my course with the Ideal Schools, and I set up my practice, from day one, I said it's going to be 100% digital practice. Luckily enough, you know, things like Xero were just emerging and coming out. With some really great software, which meant that I could be able to do that. With my technical knowledge, I saw that as a great opportunity. And, you know, it's been just fantastic. I mean, we've grown now as a practice. We're now 6 people, completely digital. My probable total spend on ink and printing in a year is no more than probably about £15 a year.
Right. So no printers.
No printer. We don't do. We use a printer, but we use it to scan receipts from clients that if we get into. It's a scanner more than a printer. And I think these days with, I mean, what we've seen now with what's happened with COVID, people now communicating with Zoom and that, you know, literally 4 months ago, if you'd have said, Gary, will you go on Zoom? You'd probably say, well, what's Zoom? Do you know what I'm saying? And now everyone's proficient in it. So I think if you take that plunge and you take that opportunity and you say, what can I do to be different from everybody else? And that was my decision to really go cloud at that time. And it was emerging, and it's happened. It's worked really well.
So if you're that clever and that IT literate, did you invest in Zoom shares when before this happened?
Actually, the funny story with Zoom is that there's two companies called Zoom. There's one called Zoom Inc. and it's another company called Zoom. And when Zoom started becoming very popular, a lot of people ended up mistakenly investing in the other company.
Has it been any good for them? You know, because I mean, sometimes these things can happen, and yeah, you know.
But I do own quite a lot of tech stocks. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, obviously you understand IT. It's your life and has been for some time. Yeah. Do you have to find a particular client that can cope with this, or are you able to talk them around?
No, I think what I've always done with a client, and in fact I did one today as a new client today who came around. It's fine because we were social distancing and everything. So what we always do is we use Xero. We're a Xero only practice, and we actually train the client in how to use Xero. The real important things that we want the client to do is essentially only invoicing. If they can do invoicing from Xero, that's all we really want them to do. Okay.
All right.
But the rest we'll take care of. And as long as they can take a picture with their iPhone or their Android phone or whatever and send the receipts to us, that's all we need them to do. The rest we can do ourselves.
Right. So when you're onboarding new clients, you presumably meet them then to comply with the money laundering regulations. So you get
of course we do the money laundering. We do all of that, and we use a package called Accountancy Manager. You may have heard of it. Where we do the onboarding process with that. Of course, you know they even sign their letter of engagement and everything. It's all done electronically.
Right. So then, how often will you see the average client?
There are clients that I've never actually met personally.
Oh, okay. So how do you know that they're the real clients?
Oh, we know them to be real clients because we do Zoom conferences with them, right? Yeah. And we've done the proper money laundering checks with them. And we've also done checks with their other suppliers and the banks and so forth.
Right.
Yeah. So I've got clients that, you know, for example, I've got a client that is actually, when they first joined us, they just set up a subsidiary. They're a Swedish client, and they'd set up a subsidiary in the UK, and we helped them set the whole thing up over here. And then they recruited people to run the company in the UK.
Right. So does this mean you can actually handle a lot more clients than you would normally do?
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the first things when I actually went set up a practice. I looked at it, and you know, at that time there was a big debate 7-8 years ago. There was a big debate of whether you charge monthly or you charge hourly. And very quickly, the first thing I said, I'm not going to charge hourly, because that means that I have to then justify a certain amount of hours. How do I justify them? I'm working from home and things like that. And also the decision was very early on. I don't really want to be at the client site. There's no need these days ever to be at the client site. In my opinion, anyway. I don't care how big we've one of our clients is a subsidiary of the Financial Times. Okay, we do everything remotely.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is no need to be at the client. Of course, you need that client integration, client engagement, but we do that with email, with phone calls. We literally touch the client every day. And what that means is that we're then able to take a lot more clients. So we're where if I said I would go 1 day a week to a client, I can do 5 clients, Gary.
Yeah. No, right? Yeah, absolutely.
And then that's it. So very early on, I made that decision that we're not going to do that. I can probably do, 12, 15, 20 clients in a week remotely.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, do you get clients that say, no, that's not what I want, and they decide not to get together, or?
We do get clients who'll contact us and said, we want you to come 1 day a week. And then I talk to them and I say, well, what's the reason you want us to come in 1 day a week? Oh, well, because we get all these receipts and they're sitting there in a tray and somebody needs to go through them. And I said, well, do you have a smartphone? Do you have a scanner? And they say, yes. I said, well, are you able to, when you get them, instead of putting them in a tray, just put them through a scanner? And if I set the scanner up for you with an email address and everything, can you do that? Yeah, that's fine. And pretty much they're convinced that you don't need to be there. I said, if I come there, I take a desk, I take space, I'll be chatting to your staff, and you don't want that. You just want the work done.
Mm. So you obviously do management reports back to your clients.
Yeah.
And do you have virtual board meetings with them or something, whether you report to everybody, you do that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we do that. We do that with Zoom. We've been using Zoom for nearly 4 years now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Is there a particular client then that you think this suits, particular type of client?
Well, to be honest with you, Gary, I mean, we've got clients who are sort of one-man band plumbers, right up to, as I said, subsidiary of the Financial Times. So I think it works for pretty much any client out there. I haven't found a single client that I say, oh no, I do actually have to go and visit them every month.
Right.
And in terms of the management reporting and that, we can do that once a quarter. Normally, most of the reporting is done either monthly or once a quarter. If we have to visit them for once a quarter, that's fine. We can do that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's just not that we won't do that like every week. We don't want to go and visit their site every week.
No. I mean, providing you get they've got their system set up and you can work with those systems, and I can see where that would work. And there are an increasing number of people doing that. Have you found, sorry,
these days, majority of the bills that you get, right, come to your email. Okay. It's only very rare receipts where you might go into a McDonald's or a Tesco or whatever, you buy something on a day-to-day basis that you'll actually get a receipt. And we train them. We say, well, as soon as you've got a receipt, just take a picture and you can throw away the receipt. That's fine. It's not a problem. And then the rest of the stuff, they get it on an email. And with some of the clients, what we do is we set up a separate email for them, which is called accounts@theircompany.co.uk or whatever it is. And we just tell all the suppliers, send all the data over there. Then we put that into Xero, and then the client can go into Xero and see what needs to be paid and pays that. That's it.
Right. Sounds very simple.
It's not rocket science.
No, I suppose it's not. I mean, obviously you've got clients that have been going through furloughing and various other things over these last 10 weeks or so. Have you found that clients have been a little bit more needy over that period?
Yes, they have. I mean, we've helped all of our clients. I'll give you a very funny story. One of the clients, we actually don't do their payroll, and he phoned me up and he said, Vip, I've got to do this furlough thing. And I said, well, I don't do your payroll, but you use your accountant to do the payroll. Yeah, but they're wanting to charge me £400 to process the furlough. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. I've not charged a single one of my clients any money to do the furlough process. Okay, because we're all in it together, and if we help them now, they'll remain with us and they'll thank us.
That's the theory, yeah. That's true.
And I helped him to process his furlough for him. And he was just so thankful, and he said, Vip, you're amazing. You're just, you're great. You really, really help us when we need it, and I want to move my payroll over to you. I said, well, thank you very much. But what I'm with the furlough thing, and also with the loans and things like that, what we've done is just been really helpful with the clients, and I call each one of my clients pretty much every week, right? If nothing else, to say, are you okay?
Yeah,
that's it, right? And so yeah, it's been fine.
So the main thing is you still maintain contact. It's just not a physical turning up contact.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We probably contact them more than if we were doing once a week, because we pretty much contact them every day, because we believe in real-time bookkeeping. So we, like I said to you, we touch the client every day. We don't kind of leave them until the end of the month or things like that, one day a month. And so there are queries coming up all the time, and we want to clear them. And we want to clear them when they're fresh in their minds, not 2 months later.
Yeah.
Right? If they paid somebody and we haven't got a bill for it, if they paid somebody yesterday, if we phone them today and said, you paid this bill, I haven't seen the actual receipt, they're more likely to remember where it is and send it to us than if we ask them 2 months later.
Yeah. And I think the technology in banking, as well as in the accounting software, is enabling far more of this work to be done in this way. And it amazes me still that traditional accountants will give you a set of quarterly figures by the end of the next quarter.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, we do clients. We tend to do the clients. We'll give them, if they're a monthly, then we aim to get the monthly reports to them by the second week of the following month.
Yeah.
At the latest. And if it's quarterly, then it's again second week of the end of the quarter. Because we're doing it real time, because we're doing it regularly.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. But I can understand if you're a one-man band and you've got if you're a one-man bookkeeper and you've got lots of little clients, it can be difficult to do that. But what I would say to them is train your customer. What I always say to all of my customers is, I can help you, I can change your life, right? But you must be willing to change.
Yeah.
Because if they're not, we just get rid of them. We just say, sorry, we can't help you.
Interesting. Oh. Yeah, I think it's a slightly radical way of looking at things, but I think bookkeepers are almost naturally moving that way because of the tools that they're using nowadays. Because I mean, they no longer need to go into somebody's office, work at a desk-based computer, and carry a floppy home with them and that sort of stuff. And there'll be people listening on this program now who probably don't even know what a floppy is. But anyway, it is a complete shift. It's a fundamental change in the way that bookkeeping can be done.
Yeah, and I think one other thing, Gary, is that, and I've spoken to quite a lot of bookkeepers at the summit and so forth. I think generally the bookkeeping, we're really a helpful bunch of people, okay? And sometimes we unwittingly accept the unacceptable from our clients.
Yeah.
Okay, because we fear that we might lose them, and B, we feel that we should do that. No,
that's not just bookkeepers. I think a lot of businesses are the same, aren't they?
Sometimes it's you're doing your client a favor by actually telling them, really, look, if you don't change the way you're doing it, I can't help you. You're going to have to find somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and so you have to be ruthless. Sometimes you have to be, and then what we find when we do that sort of thing, we sit them down and say, look, it's not working because you're not sending the data or whatever. You can either continue, right, or I can guarantee you won't have a business in a few years' time, because if this is how you treat your own business, then I hate to think how you treat your clients, and they don't like that, and then either leave us or they change. Simple as that.
So the current lockdown is likely to move more people over to your way of thinking than perhaps have done traditionally up until now.
Yeah, I think so, and I think I think a lot of businesses now are getting more of a using technology. 4 months ago, Gary, there's a lot of businesses who would never have let any of their staff work from home.
Yeah.
And they're now thinking, actually, you know what? Looking at this now, this is working. I don't actually need to have an office anymore. I could probably continue running my business like this.
Yeah.
Right? And save a lot of money on rent. Right? And have content employees.
So how do you store your data?
Thinking that way.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they are. But I mean, one of the big questions is, and I was invited to a webinar this morning, which I couldn't because I got several others on, but that is, hacking is easier from home than it is from an office, because people have got their they're using basically their home system. They link into that, and all of a sudden, people can start downloading material. I mean, what you're the IT specialist, so what do you think to that?
I think the dangers of that are a lot less than what people think. I mean, for example, if you're using something like Xero, okay,
yeah.
Xero will have a lot to lose if Xero gets hacked. We use two-factor authentication with Xero, so you can't, there's not a lot you can do on Xero. There's not a lot you can do in terms of being hacked from home in Xero. Okay. The other things that we use are things like accountancy manager, again GDPR compliant, very good with making sure that their data is secure and everything like that, and also using things like tax. We use TaxFiler for the other side of our business, where we do a lot of tax returns and corporation tax. So I don't think, I mean, it's no different. You've got a lot of bookkeepers who are working from home anyway.
Yeah, true enough. But so basically you think that because you're using reputable companies, they are so keen to keep their reputation that they're going to look after yours.
And the same goes for other businesses when they start working from home. I mean, how many, we've now been doing this for nearly a couple of months. How many major hack reports have you heard? I haven't heard that many. And people have quite comfortably been working from home. Of course, if somebody wants to hack, they'll hack any kind of system. It doesn't really matter. But it's a bit like, how much security do you have in your house? Yes, you could have an alarm and that. It still doesn't necessarily stop a burglar wanting to come into your house. It's going to happen.
No. Claire Allen just coming on Facebook and said, "Hi Vip, interested to know how you set the scope of work within your LOE. How do you monitor the work your staff are billing and avoid scope creep?"
That's a good question. So we scope our work pretty diligently on using Accountancy Manager. We also use a product called Xavier, where if you haven't used Xavier, it's a really nice product. It integrates with Xero really well, and it actually tells you how clean and a Xero is, and what the anomalies are in Xero, and you can go and clean it up. So we use that to scope out the work that we need to do with our clients. And in terms of monitoring the staff, I would say we're probably a little bit more relaxed than most people. I've always said to my staff, be as helpful as possible with all of our clients. And I've trained my staff to actually say, when they have got a lot more being thrown at them from the client, to come and talk to me, and then I will make a call to the client and say, look, this is getting a bit out of hand. We either need to look at the price or whatever it is we need to do.
Yeah. Faye's just come on and said that the speaker is very quiet. Is there something wrong with the sound? No, I think it's just that you're a gentleman, aren't you? You are.
I'm sorry. Is my voice not coming through?
Well, apparently not. I mean, I can hear you, but then again, I've got your
I'm sorry. So. I'm sorry.
I think that's about. Yeah, it's probably just as I say, you're a gentle giant of a bookkeeper. There we are.
Thank you.
So, where do you? So obviously, a lot of bookkeepers are thinking this at the moment. They have been doing for someone. I mean, 98 point, I think it is 7% of our members are currently definitely in digital accounting. I'm not suggesting they do it all the time like yourself, but there are very few people who are not. And I think the ones or twos that are still waiting to take that leap are in areas where the internet is a thing of dreams, but not something that they can get to. So you've got the Highlands and Islands. I know they have problems up there, and certainly a lot of agricultural bookkeepers find that it dips in and out so often, that the old whirring signal in the middle there is just driving them nuts, and they have to do a lot of manual stuff. Yeah. But not everybody. Now, it's that switch from thinking that it's a tool to just, it's just the latest way of doing the accounts, to it's actually a way of transforming the bookkeeper's business. So, I mean, where would you say they start this process? What is it? Is it a head thing first? Then a heart?
I think it's a head thing. I think it's, look, it's human nature. Once you're comfortable with something and you get into that habit, it's very difficult to change that. You know, if you've been using Sage Desktop and you're really used to it, and you've been doing it for 10, 15 years, it's a real, I get that. I get that it's a real difficult thing to change. But and also what happened a few years ago, there was a lot of sort of, if you look at some of the forums and things like that, there was a lot of bad press about, you know, cloud bookkeeping and it's not, it doesn't do everything and it's still not mature and so forth. That's all changed. I mean, Xero is as mature a product as anything out there. Yes, it's got its quirks, and you know, we're never going to convince everybody to move over to Xero or Quickbooks or Sage Online or whatever it is that they want to do. But I think if you trial it out with one or two customers, and if you implement it properly and you use the technology and try not to do it sort of half traditional, half modern, you take the full plunge and say, you know, if they want to send their receipts, I'm not going to pick up their shoe boxes. I want them to scan it. I want it as a PDF, or if they do send it, I'm going to scan it in, whatever. Then I think the transition, once you make that transition, once you have a go at it, you'll be surprised how easy it is and how quick it is to be able to increase your business.
Yeah. Oh, Claire Allen says I can hear you fine, but yeah, well done. Yeah. She's obviously.
So it's just taking the plunge. It really is taking the plunge, and they're not difficult systems. Don't think that. I mean, I did all my training with ICB, obviously, and the ICB with Ideal Schools and ICB and everything, and I had to use Sage, sadly. And Gary, I've told you this before. Why do we need to use Sage for our exams? You know, why can't we use a modern cloud system? But
you can use anything. We really don't do that. The only reason I think Sage is used is that traditionally they've had a very good relationship with the training providers, and so the training providers have got the materials that they've been doing they've had it for years. They've updated it. It's the workhorse that they know. Yeah. It doesn't corrupt very often, you know, and it does a good job. But yeah, people, when they come out of that, will be good bookkeepers. It just so happens they're using Sage, and then the decision is down to them. Actually, we're finding that nowadays more people are staying with Sage, albeit the cloud version, than say 5 years ago, when they only learnt on Sage and then immediately jumped into something else. So I think Sage have done a better job. Yeah. The big one that's coming through at the moment is Quickbooks. I mean, Quickbooks has been like Marmite for years. You either like it or hate it. But more and more people are moving to that now. And that's been quite a revelation. I mean, they are really coming up on the rails. And I think because they picked up a lot of the small business. So people who are attempting to do it themselves. But, you know, whereas our members, a lot of our members got very frightened by this. I thought, you know, Sage, QuickBooks is going to do it all for themselves. Not the case. QuickBooks have picked up a market which was wide open. And therefore saying, well, you know, yeah, you can do this. But when you get fed up with playing around with your accounts, go to a bookkeeper, go to an accountant. So we're all in this together. I mean, the profession is huge, but the section of small businesses that are still doing it themselves on the back of an envelope on a Friday night at 10 o'clock, it's huge. It's just waiting to be taken.
I'll give you a very good story. I had a client, I still have that client. There was a lady, and she, this was about 4 or 5 years ago. She'd just set herself up on Xero, and she phoned me up and said, look, I've set myself up on Xero and I really don't, you know, I want to learn how to use it. So I said, it's fine, it's okay. So I said, look, you know, what we could do is we could actually do your bookkeeping. And she said, no, I want you to teach me how to use it. And I said, okay, fine, no problem. I'll come over and I'll show you how to. And then she said, look, I want you to come every month and just teach me and spend, you know, a little bit of time with me to go through it. 4 months she did that. And I said, whenever you're ready, we'll take over. And she said, now I know how to do it. I want you to do it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for knowing what your bookkeeper or accountant's doing for you.
Yeah.
A lot of people just presume you know what you're doing. They daren't ask.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, isn't it? You should ask. It's your business. They're your books. Okay. You've got to know what's going on. Yeah. So, yeah.
And the thing with that is that, so a lot of these small businesses will start setting up their own QuickBooks or Xero or whatever it is. But there will come a time when they'll say, actually, you know what, my time is a little bit better spent in doing business rather than doing this bookkeeping lark. So, you know, I need to bring somebody in, and it's a great opportunity for us.
Yeah. I mean, I think I probably mentioned this before on one of these programs, but many years ago, I had quite a large garden. I bought myself a little ride-on mower, and we had a gardener, came with the house, and I wouldn't let him use his tractor because I was enjoying myself so much. I got fed up. Yeah. He got the tractor eventually, and you know, that was it. Exactly. But yeah, I think it's horses for courses, and yeah, people soon get round to that. Yeah. So, how do you keep abreast of what's going on out there? Because you've liberally mentioned a number of software packages. I'm sure you're on some sort of retainer. How do you keep ahead of the game? Because you know it's changing so rapidly.
We do quite a lot of training. All of us are sort of Xero certified. We do whatever new piece of software that we take on board. We do all the training and certification for it. We do go to events like the ICB Summit. We do go to events like the XeroCon. And so XeroCon's really great because we're a Xero practice. Any add-on that goes with Xero isn't normally there. Anything new is there, so we pick up a lot of information from there. We talk to our account managers quite a lot with our software providers, and we, you know, one of the things I ask them is, look, is there anything new out there that we should be doing? Is there another new piece of software? And they get to know some of this stuff because they're speaking to other practices and so forth. And so we then pick up and they say, well, you know, have you tried looking at this piece of software? And then we'll go and have a look at it, and if it fits our practice, we'll take it on board. But it's keeping an eye for it, you know, and going to events.
Yeah. Andrew says, good afternoon. Do you take on accounts only clients, i.e. they do their own bookkeeping but need someone to do the year end?
So we have in my practice, I now have a chartered accountant. Okay, and he joined us in February. He's an FCA, and so we're now able to do the bookkeeping and write up to final accounts for small and medium-sized companies. I don't ever want to take a client. One of the decisions I've made for my practice, I don't ever want to take a client on that is accounts only.
Right.
Because I want to do the bookkeeping and the accounts.
I think you have to, really, don't you? Because you don't know what's gone into those accounts unless you've done them.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, as I've said this to you before, Gary, accountants do postmortems. We're not in the postmortem business.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody here, Nicola, actually just saying, I just took a phone call, automated voice telling me they were from HMRC and that there was a fraud case in my name. If I didn't press 1 immediately, I would be arrested shortly. Many scams out there claiming to be HMRC. Would be quite frightening if I didn't know. Yes, Nicola, unfortunately, anything that comes in like that, unless it's from our head of compliance, Steve, because he might be around the corner waiting, but apart from that, I'm afraid, yeah, so thank you for alerting us to that. For some reason, I'm on a list somewhere. I keep getting these phone calls saying, in automated tones, we know you've had an accident. We can get you more money. You know, I keep thinking, well, I don't know anything about this accident, so...
One of the things we say to our clients, Gary, is if they ever get an email from HMRC or a text message, is to send it to us and we'll tell them whether it's valid or not.
I mean, I think for a client, once you get that, you ignore all letters from HMRC or anything else. I mean, I occasionally want to make sure you're doing it, but that's what you're there for. Yeah. And yeah, I suppose it is. So once you've got your clients, you've got them set up, and do you work with them? Do you give them opportunities, look at them and say, actually, I've seen you're doing X. Did you realize if you did Y, you might shave a bit extra off your costs, or you might add a little bit more to your bottom line? Is that part of your service now?
Absolutely, it is. So I'll again give you a very good example. Some of the things that we do, we help them with their cash flow, obviously. So we've got a lot of our clients, especially the one-man band plumbers and electricians and things like that. We get them on Stripe. We get them to do the invoice straight after the job, email it to the client with a pay now button. They get paid a lot faster. We've moved a lot of clients that were being paid 30 to 45 days now to 14 days, and that improves their cash flow immediately. We also do things like, again, another example with an electrician is a very good example. We use tracking in Xero. So we'll say, what we want you to do is to track a job. Every time you do an invoice, just track it, whether it's gas safety check or a boiler service or something like that. Then what you can do in a year's time, you can go back to Xero and say, how many gas safety certificates did I do last November? And I can now contact them in October and say, I did this for you last year on this date. Can I book you in for the next one?
Yeah.
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 And
I remember we went down to Devon and met up with the sort of the branch down there, did the branch. And I remember that Carol Gibson was saying that she just met up with one of her clients. She'd seen her in town somewhere, and she ran a small cafe. And she was just saying, talking about their accounts, funnily enough, and they were saying that she was getting a lot of stuff that she was having to throw away because people weren't buying. And Carol, because Carol's got more of a business background than a bookkeeping background, actually said, well, yeah, that's because you've got 191 things on the menu. And you get X amount of people a day, you're never going to do everything. So why not have one main menu and perhaps a couple of side things, and also charge them a bit more?
Yeah.
And the cafe owner was really nervous about this, but said, all right, I'll try it, and has never looked back. Because, people actually, given too many choices, get stuck. They don't know what to go for next. And so, it's it's that extra bit of business head on there, isn't it?
Just that. It's just looking beyond the numbers. We could, I always say, the bookkeeping part is not that difficult, right? And once you know what you're doing, it's not that difficult. But look beyond the numbers. Look beyond that, and see how it's a reason to call a client, right? It's that engagement with a client. Yeah. Say, oh, by the way, just looking at your Xero, so and so, can we? Have you thought about doing it this way, or is that right, or should you be doing something else?
Great. Kim Clarkson says, I love Marmite and QuickBooks. So good for you. We did a webinar with the council recently, and I've had a couple of webinars with Paula V.C. Smith. And she's got her banner behind her for her branch, but she's got a Marmite tub up on the top of the bookshelf.
Yeah.
And I questioned that. She said, no, it's a good talking point. Lots of people talk about it. So I don't think it's ever been opened. So perhaps she's not a fan either. Mm. And again, on the Facebook pages here, Jane Lynch, love how you've modelled your business bit. And I never thought of the idea of taking on an accountant. It's usually the other way around. Not the case nowadays, is it at all?
I love doing things the other way around. I love doing things differently, because I think if you're different, right, then that makes you unique, and your clients will engage with that. If you're the same as the bookkeeper down the road, you're no different. The only thing you can argue is price.
Yeah, we do get a lot of our members saying they either work with or now employ accountants who've retired or whatever, or increasingly they're quite young accountants that just see bookkeeping as a better way of getting client contact, of having a real hands-on with a set of accounts. And I think, you know, it's a bit like when I was at school, you went to see the careers manager and what he said was, have you thought of banking? Because he got no idea what else to do. And it tends to be the way with career officers at colleges or schools or whatever. Sure. Have you thought about being an accountant? So you aim for the top, you stop halfway along, and actually you're neither one thing or the other. You become a technician or something or other instead of an accountant. And really, what you actually want, the product that you want to sell and the person you are, is bookkeeper and bookkeeping. You know, it's just there. It's so obvious. Yeah. But we do get a lot of people who come into us from one of the chartered bodies because they've had children or they've had other changes or they've maybe done whatever. So they come into bookkeeping. Some of them do find the transition to bookkeeping difficult because they're not used to the client contact. They're not used to looking at accounts in quite the same way. Yeah. We report what really goes on. They try and find a way of saving the client money. And the two sometimes fall into quite difficult conflict there, which I think is strange. But I'm sure under your control it works.
But the service that I'm looking at, one of the reasons why one of the reasons I've got the accountant on board is not just to do the final account, but we want to start looking at quarterly at the business, so that we're not coming to them with at the end of the year when we're doing the accounts, so this is what we can do to save you tax. We want to actually hit that a lot earlier when we're doing the bookkeeping side of it. Okay?
Yeah,
and that's a service that accountants don't provide. Again, be different. We want to be different, and that's the area that I want to concentrate going forward.
Yeah, we ICB, we've had we've had some big accountants that just charge us a lot of money, so we went down to a mid-range set of accountants, and our partner retired, sent him off, etc. And a new partner came in and he sat down in our boardroom. I remember looking at me and he said, "Now, have you ever come across something called Xero?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you probably don't know about Xero, but it's a software package." I said, "Do you know who we are? Or you just walked through the door on?" He said, "Yeah, but you're bookkeepers." He said, "So isn't it all pen and paper with bookkeepers?" Oh, I should have thrown him out there.
Thrown him out.
I've regretted it ever since. But yeah, he was incredulous that we'd seen software. You know, he thought we were Excel specialists, and that's what we did. You know, and I mean, it's a while ago now, and even then, we had Garry Carter on stage years, and we had, the likes of Sage and sort of Rich from Quickbooks had been on, and all the rest of it, all talking about how wonderful they were, we were, how we all worked together. I just understand it. But I think I went to a seminar, actually, it was actually Sage, at which some accountants were talking there, and I remember Accounting Web were there. They'd just done a big survey. And it's like taking a step back in time somehow. They were so hell-bent on being entrenched in their old ways that I felt really out of place. And I remember that Jackie Mount, our technical advisor, head of technical advice, she was on stage with a group of accountants. So there were, I think, 3 or 4 accountants and her. And it was very difficult to stop her sort of going for their throat because they were talking complete nonsense at one stage. She got a bit of a reputation for herself, but since then, so many of those people have now re-engaged with her and said, "Look, I see where you were coming from. And she's doing a lot of work with other organisations,
Sure.
to get that going.
Sure. But
it's different.
You just have to be different, and I think accountants. I mean, if I look forward, Garry, and a few years ago there was this big talk about automation and how one of the professions accountants is the one profession that probably going to be hit because it can be automated. It can be automated, and if you use tax filer, there's a lot of it that you cannot be automated. And I just think that unless you start doing that kind of bookkeeping and the accounts and all of that, yes, you are going to be replaced if you're an accountant. I'm sorry, but you are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, that's Daniel, the book by, actually it was Richard Siskind, first of all, who came on with The End of the Professions. Yeah. Then his son Daniel took over, and I was on a panel with him over in America, in New Orleans. And yeah, he was obviously saying that we got a 5-year lifespan, I think that's about 8 years ago. And actually, the business is just growing exponentially out there. And I said a little while ago on here that I haven't got the exact figures in front of me, but last year, our members put on in excess of 10,900 new clients. That's net, you know, after all of the ones that have gone or whatever have disappeared. I mean, that is a huge growth.
Huge growth.
And even with that, there is so much going on at the moment, which government thankfully keeps throwing our way. As far as I can see, as long as they keep doing this, we're never going to be short of business. It's incredible.
Exactly. No, I agree. And I think coming back to your original point, I've a little thought about this for the remote workers who don't have great internet. I think for them, it's not long now. Once 5G comes along, which is not very far away now. And I'd say probably, you know, we're probably 6 to 8 months away from 5G proper 5G rollout. In fact, if you're able to get 5G in those areas, because you don't then need an internet provider such as BT or anything like that, you can literally tether your computer straight to your mobile. Then I think that's a game changer for those people as well.
Yeah. I mean, I live in the middle of London, and it's not the best served place as far as internet is concerned. I get a much better signal on my phone than I do through my Skybox.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember when we moved here, and I was trying to get a supplier, and I said, well, look, I get a better service on my phone. Oh yeah, well, you can't use your phone for these sort of things. You've got to have Sky. It's got to come through a box. Well, obviously they're selling boxes, so they're going to say that, aren't they? And you know, I fell for it as well. But I think the time is coming. That will change. So I'm going to put you on the spot now in a slightly different way. I'm putting me on the spot as well. What is it then that a practice like yours needs from an organisation like ours?
So,
and I can't cut you off. So if you say something, I'm in trouble.
I think I remember having a chat with you or putting a question to you a couple of summits ago, and I put a question to you saying, you know, you're promoting us going digital and things like that, and that, you know, but the ICB website wasn't keeping pace with it. I think you've made a lot of changes there, and it's good to see that. So thank you for listening for that. That's great. I think the area that I think from the study point of view is, I think you're going in the right direction in terms of us being able to do the self-assessment. Great. You know, the micro entities, great, and the small business is great. So I think if pushing that side of it is great, because like I said, in my business model, and if anybody wants to take that sort of business model, is you really want to do everything for that client, right from the bookkeeping to the final, the end to end. Okay, and that I'm really thankful for allowing us to be able to do the micro. I think I was one of the first people that finished the micro entities exam, and because I couldn't wait to get started. Jackie will tell you, and I was really pleased to get the exemption for the small businesses and that. But to the rest of the ICB folk, the members, don't be frightened to do the self-assessment. Don't be frightened to do the micro entities. Don't be frightened to do the small companies. It takes a little bit of time to learn it, but don't be frightened. Don't think you can't do it. And trust me, the accountants don't know any more than you do. You probably know more about that client than the accountants do.
Yeah, I must admit, I go to some branch meetings and you'll get two bookkeepers talking technical stuff, and I'm sitting there thinking, whoa, this is over my head. What are they on about? You know, and you do get into this, you know, you do know about business, you do know about books. I mean, okay, you probably wouldn't want to run a £100 million turnover company if you know, even if you're given the opportunity. But I mean, if you look at the 97% of all businesses have got a turnover of less than about 2 million rather. who needs to worry about the others? Let somebody else worry about that. You know, I mean, there's so much business out there. And with the FRS 102 1A also now being opened up for bookkeepers, I mean, if you want to, with that, you can do a turnover of up to, what, 13 million or something like that. But that isn't where the majority of businesses are. You know, they're down at the bottom end. And the micros with the 105, I have to say, although we've been talking about it for a long time, the government suddenly turned around one day and it was their idea. They came up with, yeah, I'll tell you what, why don't you do it? Because that will save our small businesses a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll accept a bit of that blame. And because we've done that, the snowball started rolling. And the next thing we know is, what about 102, 1A? You know, is there much difference? I think some businesses can get very complicated.
Yeah.
And some businesses want to go and raise £25 million on a sale or something. And I think that's a different area, different ball game. But as long as people feel comfortable with what they're being asked to do and understand what they're doing, and that's a big choice, you know, that's a thing, that's a choice that you make, your reputation stands on. I think that's great.
Yeah. I mean, from my point of view, you know, I mean, I can do the micro entities, I can do the small. The reason I've taken an accountant on is because I don't, as I told you before, Gary, I mean, I started this business because I was retired, and I want to go back to retirement, but I want to set up this nice little business that I've set up. I want it to continue, and that's one of the reasons why I've hired this person, is so that the business continues and the 5 people who are employed have a job and a nice business to run. That's why.
Yeah.
You know, so but there's no real need for the accountant because I can pretty much do most of it anyway.
Yeah. Faye has just rung in and said her husband says that call from HMRC is definitely a fraud. Now, that's Faye Watkins from Wales, and I know that because, and I trust her husband because actually he's a policeman and he deals with fraud, so he knows what he's talking about. So thank you, Faye. Thank you. It's good to know you're still listening to us. That's brilliant. Yeah, I suppose if we automate everything, it gives us a chance then to make sure we don't fall into these silly little things. You see, there's a lot of other stuff out there that's going on that we need to keep an eye on, and but that's good. And just to go back at your bit on the website, yeah, we've updated it a bit, but actually, had the furlough not happened, and our website provider hadn't actually furloughed half of its staff, we'd have had a brand new website by now. I think at the moment, Amy's looking at getting it online. End of June, beginning of June. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. She complained now that I've committed us. But yeah, so redesign, new things we can do with it. A lot of these. Yeah. The thing is, so many pages on there. It's so damned expensive. You know, I mean, we're talking £500,000 worth of spend over 5-6 years, I think it is, because you think our site looks great, but I've forgotten how many pages it is we've got on there. About 17,000. Because everybody's exams from years ago, they're all stored there somewhere, you know, and every result is stored there.
Sure.
God, incredible. Sorry, anyway, you were going to say?
The one thing that I would like you to add, and this is on the MLR side, is being able to attach the MLR documents like a client's passport or driving license or whatever to that. To
being developed at the moment.
It's a nice, secure place to have them.
Yeah, it's being developed at the moment, and also contracts and everything else can be lodged against the individual clients.
Brilliant.
And so that's good. I mean, we're doing quite a lot on the money laundering front, and touch wood, at the moment we seem to be keeping OPBAS, our professional body, happy, so that's good. But they are, I think they must just sit around a table and think, right, what hoop can we come up with today? You know, they always want something different. And up until now, I think we've been really ahead of the game. And the good thing about having Steve on board, and also Jane, who now is our investigations officer, is that, you know, that police experience means that they talk the right language. Yeah. I mean, I go to sit around a meeting with all these Whitehall people, I get right up their nose, I'm too aggressive. But Steve sort of calms them down, talks their language, and then digs the knife in just at the end, you know, gets what he wants. So it's horses for courses. But,
no, it's good. It's a lot of good improvement, and that would help us, because then we're not kind of having to store. Although, you know, it's fine for us because we use Accountancy Manager and we store the documents there. But I can imagine a lot of other bookkeepers who are not using those kind of packages. They're manually doing their letter of engagement and then having to store all this sort of the PDF of their the driving license, the passport. If it's in a secure place on your website, then that's the place for it to be. So
and I think that's and I think that the profession would like that.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, some of the accountancy bodies who are 100 and some odd years old are a little bit. They're a bit like the big oil tankers. They're a lot slower to turn things round. And I think they're very keen that those sort of things are not set in tablets of stone quite yet, because they can't do it. Yes. You know, they've got 150 committees to go through. I mean, we've got about a dozen people that do everything, so it doesn't matter. So we can Now, Anonymous has just said, what if the client also needs some tax advice and planning instead of just tax return preparation? Is this something ICB bookkeepers can also do? Generally speaking, no. You need a lot of background in tax to be able to make sure your tax is right. Now, if you are qualified with another body, like the CIOT, Chartered Institute of Taxation, then yes, you can. We will recognise any other qualification you have, but no, tax planning, you can prepare the stuff from the figures that you've created, because you know what the figures mean, you know that they're true and accurate, you just put them into the forms, you press the button or whatever, and away it goes. No, tax planning and, you know, dealing with advice on what to do if people pass on, or what they want to do with their business and all that sort of stuff, how to set up structures. No, that is really not you. It would be wise perhaps if you gave us a call at ICB and we'll have a longer chat about that, because we might be able to steer you away from that. There is so much work for bookkeepers, as I think we've already shown today. You really don't need to get into that high-end, difficult, litigious stuff. You know, that's where you end up behind bars trying to explain why you did something wrong. You don't want that.
Most companies don't really need that sort of stuff, and if they do, then what I would always say to people is to align yourself with a good accountant or somebody that you can pass that business to, and then, you know, at the same time you can say, well, if I'm passing you business, then you need to be passing some business to me too.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, I think also the thing with accountants I found over the years is because of the CPD requirements, even in firms of accountants, they don't have jack of all trades in quite the same way they did. You know, have customer facing people, but behind the scenes, they've got a VAT expert, they've got a tax expert, they've got an investment expert and all that sort of stuff. You know, so even though you've got a chartered accountant, I mean, his sphere of knowledge is probably going to be limited, and you'd rather he concentrated on looking after the clients that are important to you and doing the core activity, which exactly, I think is advisable. Just don't get carried away, I suppose, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I've got Gold Accounting here, says, how would you manage the paperwork being approved by the site managers before you pay? I do the whole service for a key room client, and I pay the bills for them, but they have to match delivery notes with invoicing. That sounds simple enough.
Yeah. I mean, we don't. If we can help it, we don't do the payments for clients. But if we do the payments, what we always tend to do is we put all the bills in Xero. We then get them to approve. We put them in drafts. We get then the owner to approve it, or whoever's authorized to approve it. Then we'll schedule the payments into the bank, and then we don't actually have the final authority to release the funds. Then another person, the owner, then logs on to the bank and says, "Yeah, these are all approved, and yes, pay them." That's it. So we're very careful not to take that too much responsibility of the payment.
Yeah, I mean, we had SmartVault on yesterday, George Kaisis. I called him Kizis, but it's Kaisis, and he was saying that actually they can link purchase orders into invoices, into payments. So, you know, that might be something you look at somebody like that for. That's also linked into electronic signature.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's not
just don't do it on a phone call.
Yeah, but it's not far off now. I think if you look at some of these, whether it's QuickBooks, Sage, or Xero, I'm sure they're working on being able to pay the bill directly from Xero or from the software.
Yeah, I mean, I ask each of the app providers when they come on, you know, how long do you think you've got left? Because if I were Sage or Intuit or Xero, I'd certainly be looking at the busiest apps and saying, well, we can do that. you know, we'll do that ourselves. Why not? And I don't know about the cost of setting something like that up. You might know, but looking at the amount of millions they have paid in the past for companies, I would have thought it's easy to set it up yourself, and it's already got your colour and your stuff all built in.
Which is what they've done with the receipt apps, haven't they? I mean, Xero's bought UpDoc and Sage has bought Auto Entry, and QuickBooks must be buying something pretty soon.
Well, there's only Receipt Bank left, but Receipt Bank seems to have gone a little bit quiet at the moment. So I don't know if perhaps they were just too expensive or what. I don't know.
No, there is Data Molino as well. So there are a couple of options that they could buy. So.
And Nicola has just said Xero has just announced that this week supplier payments via TransferWise.
There you go. Yeah. Just have to be careful. Don't jump into that too quickly, because obviously there's a fee attached to each payment with TransferWise. So, and then that's on top of the bank fee as well. So just be wary about moving down that way. You might end up the costing the customer quite a bit of money.
Have you or your clients moved into challenger banking at all?
Yes, we have quite a few clients who use Tide, quite a few clients who use Starling. We love Starling and Tide, because one of the things that we get with that, with the connection to Xero, is the feeds are updated literally every couple of hours.
Yeah,
real time now. So we're getting to a stage where it's fantastic. And yeah, they work. Yeah, obviously you don't have any checkbooks or anything like that. They're fine, absolutely fine. Great banks to work with, and really the connection and everything really easy to set up.
Yeah, one of the big things we had Revolut, which is the latest one that we've linked into now. Revolut came on recently, and listened to most of what they said, and I thought, right, okay. And then something came out, and I thought, wow, that sounds great. And that was that you can set up a card payment system online to any of your staff, and you can do it immediately.
Yeah.
And you can take their money away from them so they can't spend it, or you can give them a little bit extra to spend.
Yeah.
And so all these people who have to take a photograph of a receipt, it's gone. I mean, you can actually give this to your clients and say, right, just use this as your credit card.
Yeah.
And actually, no, you don't have a receipt. It downloads straight into Xero. It's just incredible what can be done.
Yeah, so we have a client where we use Soldo, which is exactly the same thing as well. And that works really well. So they can either have physical cards or a virtual card, and they can hook them up. And so where they've got 30 or 40 staff, where they are, each one of them has a spend potentially because they're traveling or whatever, they just get this either a physical or a virtual card, and they can just put the expense and don't even need the receipts, and everything picks up the receipts as well.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I mean, I am the world's worst at doing my expenses, I have to say. I mean, I'm one of these terrible clients who everybody talks about with a box. And I've got it in a room a couple of doors away where I've got years of the stuff in there. You know, it's pretty expensive stuff that has just gone against me, and I've never been able to claim it because I haven't done anything with it. You know, it's nonsense, really. But I'll do it tomorrow.
You're so quick with the Facebook and the Twitter and that. So you've got your phone with you all the time. And I know ICB uses Xero, so you've got the Xero app. You can take a picture of it and just send it across, right?
Yeah, it's simple. I don't know why I don't do it. I think I've just got this aversion to it or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to come and train you.
Kirsty St. John says QuickBooks does receipt capture in-house limited but getting better. So yeah, it's all coming. I mean, it's great to be a bookkeeper, isn't it? Because you've got governments trying to throw business at you. You've got software companies trying to make your job and your life easier. And then you've got an institute behind you that's trying to make you look even more professional out there. So where can it go wrong? And really, I think there, Vip, we're probably done, unless you've got any last minute nuggets that you'd like to pass on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know times are real tough at the moment, but hang in there. And as I say, you know, out of any adversity, there's always an opportunity. So that's my parting shot.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that. It's good to have you on. As always, you know, the time talking to you passes very quickly because I find you full of enthusiasm and great ideas, which is good. And you know, it's good to be able to talk to you like that. Just before we depart, can I just remind everybody that tomorrow we've got the Genesis Initiative on. It's an organisation that I've been part of for quite some time. They're a body that looks after trade and professional bodies and lobbies on behalf of the small, micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. They actually go and talk to government and say, you know, do you realise how difficult it is being a small business? And they took all of that. So I've got the chairman, John May, and then also David Harvey, who is the CEO. David has been brought in to sort of help do a lot more for it. I mean, they do annual reports, they do a budget review whenever there's a budget, and you know, they do work very hard for small businesses. And you know, it'd be good if you could come on, ask them some questions about businesses or what they're going to do for you as bookkeepers of small businesses, whatever it is. Friday, we've got Thankfully It's Friday again, obviously myself and Jackie Mount. Jackie's loving this, if nothing else, because she gets lots of compliments on her earrings and how good she looks, but that's fantastic. And then next week, look out, on Friday, we'll release the schedule for the week, but it's all about using social media, how to do marketing, how to do traditional advertising, basically how to look for business. I know most of you do not struggle to find business, but perhaps looking for better quality, high-end business that you should now be looking at, because you're not just a bookkeeper, you're an ICB bookkeeper. And on that, thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Thank you, Vic. Cheers.